All right, welcome everyone to Australian Open, winning Australian Open. I'm here with my co-host Andrew Hill, who is in Australia. And Andrew, we were talking before we got on today about what you're doing. And guys, what I want you to understand is one of the beautiful things about tennis is the game itself. And one of the challenges that tennis is facing is its accessibility. And, here in LA, private lessons can cost you $150 an hour. I'm not sure what it's like where you are, Andrew, but it's prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. And guys, what Andrew is doing is amazing. And I would like you, Andrew, if you would just share with the people that are listening the star and what you're doing with the kids at school, because I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, love to share it, and it's a world opportunity. So anyone listening, give me a call and get it going your way. The Stars program there's a character called Sports Star who plays every sport. He relates with kids. We get invites to go to schools in the holidays during the term. We get kids en masse. So today I'll be seeing 100 children just in the holidays. And the idea is to give them an experience in all sports, but one of those key sports is tennis. Now, when they play, there's a lot of colour, there's mini nets, there's modifications, everything that you've seen in the American system, right around the world, they're all modified. The idea is get a racket in someone's hand and have a bit of fun. So the Sports Star program is free. So it's sportstar.com.au. It's got slow motion videos, ideas to help coaches, teachers, and parents to get kids healthy and active and have a go at tennis.
And I think we all got started with tennis in some way similar. I know for me personally, it was high school. My buddy Josh said, "Why don't you come out here? Let's give it a try." And he was a very good player, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But as soon as I got that racket in my hand and I started hitting the ball, I was like, "This is an amazing game." And of course, went deep down the rabbit hole, and now I'm coaching. But what I love about what you're doing, Andrew, is you're making tennis accessible for kids, and you're also giving them an experience with tennis for a lot of kids, which is their first experience, which is going to be so memorable, so fun, so inclusive. And so I'm just really thrilled to be teaming up with you today, where we're talking about the winning Australian Open. We got a fantastic show. We got Conrad Singh, who's a world-class development coach, which we'll get to in just a second. But Andrew, I'd love to get your take on what you saw yesterday. We were talking about Djokovic and his match with Taylor Fritz before we went on. What were your impressions of that match, and what did you notice?
All right. Once again, conditions were very hot, so that's another element for both players. I noticed Djokovic getting very angry, even getting angry at his own team. And Taylor Fritz was actually staying quite cool. His big serve was working. He was causing a lot of trouble, keeping nice and close. But there's something in Djokovic who just manages to get the key point at the right time and ended up winning in 4 sets. But they were really close sets. We're talking 1 or 2 points. So Taylor's big serve was quite a dominant force, pulling out at the right time. So he did some service breaks, which has been pretty hard for anyone. So that's one match, but another match that you've got to be watching, Sinner. Sinner got up, and he hasn't dropped any sets. So he's got a nice system in place. He's sticking to that. It gets harder now. So, if he doesn't get a set, he'll be analysing that. So Sinner's a good one to watch. You've got Medvedev and Alcaraz in the other part of the draw. So we're getting down to business now. The last 4, they're my predictions. The girls, Coco, that must be making you very happy. She's going to have a hard draw against Blanca. She played amazing tennis last night. She was just so forceful. The other girls, they'll be played today. So I'll give you an update on that. Mark will be happy because Dan's girls are still in and looking pretty strong. So there's a Chinese girl, Zhang, and she's going really well. She's got good technique, good style, staying power, good tactics. And I noticed Li Na was at the tennis. So a famous winner of the Australian Open. So she's in her corner.
Well, I'm really looking forward to a couple of matches in particular. One would be Coco versus Sabalenka. I
Yeah.
think that is going to be an irresistible force with an immovable object. And Sabalenka, got to give her tons of credit because, a couple of years ago, her sort of MO was, she would get to the finals and she would find a way to choke. There was something mental that was going on. She seems to have worked that out really beautifully. And then Coco is just the ultimate competitor, so fast, has gotten so much stronger around the court. I think that's going to
Yep.
be a fantastic match to watch. And then Sinner and Djokovic, which is
Yeah.
just going to be such a treat. It'll be a lot of fun to watch that. Um,
Look,
well,
those matches that'll be one of the special things about Sinner, which we said right at the first bit, is I'm really interested in how he's progressed. He's got Darren Cahill, one of our top Australian coaches, working with him, and just a really good strategy coach as well. So just has all those elements. I would class him as one of the best. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I always love listening to his comments in the on the tennis channel because you can tell he's been in it. He worked with Simona Halep, took her game to a whole new level, and his analysis and the way that he talks about how he talks to his players as a coach, I just find fascinating. He
Yeah.
made a comment
Look, he
yesterday.
was he was head coach of Leighton Hewitt as well. So he's got runs on the board. He then went over to with Agassi, and is amazing. So I had the pleasure of watching him on court with Hewitt in the training sessions, and just hearing the sound of the ball on the court with them. That is an experience.
Well, phenomenal. Andrew, we have a great interview lined up with Conrad Singh, who is a world class junior
Yeah.
development coach. And in this conversation with Mark that we had a couple of months ago, Conrad really lays down the framework that he uses to consistently take juniors from maybe talented juniors to very high performing juniors, making the tour and doing really, really well. So we're going to get to that in just a second. If you guys are tuning into this on YouTube or on Facebook and you have any questions for Andrew or myself, just go ahead and put them down in the comments. Or if you're watching this on a replay, you can do that. Feel free to share this. And Andrew, anything to add before we kick it over to Mark and Conrad?
We've got some more heat coming, so it's starting to really. That's an endurance test now. So these long matches, you can see they're trying to shorten them up. They want to be inside, out of the heat, getting ready for the next match until the last one. It's interesting, they were saying to Demonor after he didn't get up in his match, so what's next? And he said, I'm out of the tournament. So it's sort of like that's the last thing in their mind. They want to stay as long as they can. Nothing else is planned other than being in this tournament.
Does it take, I'm sure it's different for every player, but what is that grieving process like? I mean, I'm sure it's, you work your tail off, especially at the Australian Open where you've got the whole off
Yeah.
season. Everything that you're doing in training is to get you ready for this event. What is that process like for a player like Alex who was expecting to go all the way?
Everyone believes they should go all the way. And I think that's where Djokovic, he sort of foretells that he's going all the way. And that's so powerful mental strength. Alex had his opportunities. He did us proud, great attitude. Afterwards, thinking about what had happened, he knew he had his opportunities and he focused on serves. And this is a big thing on a big point. If you can get a first serve in on a big point, you then don't jump into this second bit, which is a shot at a second serve. Even the best mental strength person can make a double fault. So if you're doing first serves, you're minimizing the chance of letting the other person get a freebie.
And it's a one thing I noticed yesterday with Coco and her opponent, whose name escapes me at the moment, and it was a brutal time of day. The sun was right overhead.
Yeah.
I've never seen that many missed first serves, particularly in the second set tiebreaker from both players. And so, like you said, that really opens the door for the opponent to attack the second serve and or the server to potentially do a double fault. So take home message: let's get our first serves in. Let's be able to execute that first serve to
I like
targets.
that.
We talk a lot about targets and not just going up there and letting it rip, but really having a process that you can go through, that you can pre-plan, before the point, at least to get you started on the right foot. So with that, Andrew, let's kick it over to Conrad and Mark. We've got a fantastic interview lined up for you guys. Thank you for joining us today on the Australian Open. Tomorrow we will be here with Richard Pagliaro, who is a writer and editor for Tennis Now, who has some remarkable insights. This guy has interviewed Agassi and Sampras and Federer and all of the greats. And what we did was talked about what are those common threads that you see from these players, mentally, physically. What are the things that they do in order for them to consistently win these tight matches and win Grand Slams? And it's really great because there's a lot of insights from Richard from the years that he's been on the court, years interviewing these people, and some actionable things that we can do as competitive amateur tennis players to go out and win more matches. So that'll be coming up tomorrow. Andrew, this has been so much fun today. I'm excited to learn more about the STARS program and how we can bring tennis to more kids. Pickleball is exploding here in LA, and pickleball is great. But I think tennis will always be, personally, my primary love, and I would love to see more kids get involved. So with that, we'll kick it over to Conrad and Mark. Andrew, it's a pleasure doing this with you, and we'll get rolling.
Ramon's not here.
Yes, I am.
But for Ramon and myself, this is not duty. This is a labor of love, and we get to share it with extraordinary people and friends across the world. So I want to introduce you to Conrad Singh, one of the great people that also has a labor of love. And just to introduce him properly or frame him for you, is we are blessed to have some extraordinary coaches specializing in specific aspects of winning. Where Conrad is different is that he's really focused on the lifeblood of our sport. It's okay for us plus 55, 60, 65-year-olds about winning, but more important is the next generation after that. Where the kids going to come from that are going to become young adults and old adults. And that's what Conrad does, but not just about winning juniors as players, but winning juniors as people. So this is what we're going to do today is look at what Conrad does for his juniors. And I'm only going to be polite to say arguably, because I don't think it's an argument. Arguably has the best junior development program in the USA, getting more people into Grand Slams, going deep into second weeks, getting to finals, and oh my God, winning the finals, occasionally with men and women, and a pipeline into the college world, into the transition from adulthood, and no doubt Little Mo and 100 other tournaments as well. Is that reasonable? Is that fair, Conrad?
Thank you, Mark, for the intro. And look, we're very proud of what we're doing here at Centre Court. And obviously, my career as a coach, I've been fortunate to work at over 55, approaching 60 Grand Slams now with players. And obviously those have been with juniors and pros.
Wow.
And the foundation.
Hold on, man, because you just glossed over that number, 55 or 60 Grand Slams as a coach.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to be there and see that. And this has been going since probably back in 97 or 98, I think was my first experience. And so, knowing that we're going to talk today about sort of winning and how do we develop those traits and how is it trainable, it comes back to so many fundamentals that I think every family can help their own child and or anyone who's an enthusiast to put those pillars in place. So
before you do that, because I am fascinated by it and I want to concentrate on it, but just talk us through your track record of creating winners in life on and off court so people understand what you've done, because it's remarkable.
So, look, I've been very lucky, again, since probably the late 90s to have, competitors come through programs that either I'm directly the head coach of or I'm involved in with a team. It definitely takes a village. It's never one coach or one individual. It's, a constant pathway and plugging the right things in at the right time. So we're very fortunate. The last few years, we've had 3 Wimbledon finalists in the juniors. We had the runner-up with Alexa Noel in 2019. 2020, there was no Wimbledon. 21, we had Samir Banerjee as the winner. And
Wow.
22, we had Michael Jang as the runner-up. I've just come back from the US Open where we had Hayato Matsuoka, Japanese player, a very good player, home-based player, and Darwin Blanche, who's an absolute superstar. He's with Juan Carlos Ferrero's team. He bases here when he's in the US. So, look, we're constantly getting these absolute world beaters coming through. There are many reasons for that. But yes, I've been very fortunate, Mark, to be part of that.
And the girls as well. Talk us about the girls and also college.
Look, I mean, look at Sheldon right now. Like, he's epitomizing, in my opinion, why college tennis is absolutely pivotal to the step into pros. And I think the biggest word that comes out of that is the support network, right? So these players that go through college, they develop huge hordes of young kids and other athletes that are supporting their journey. Look at the Michael Jang, who recently he made the second round of the qualies. He unfortunately went out to a guy who went in the second round of the main draw, played amazing, but he had 50, 80 kids there from his college team supporting him.
Wow, so, did he really?
That college aspect for the boys and for the girls is absolutely huge. It gives them just that extra 3 to 4 years, and for some only 2 or 1 even for a Sheldon, where they realize how good they are, and they realize there's a lot of people that can see that they're good, and it just adds to that instilling of confidence and belief that they can transition to the tour. I think it was 30 players.
It's a very lonely sport, so to have that support is a real competitive advantage.
Massively. I mean, look at Collins, who made the Aussie Open final was last year. So many good players coming out of college now. John Isner, who's just retired, who came out and spoke about how important his years were back 15 years ago. College is just such an ideal landscape for the kids to explore themselves, have a little bit of freedom and independence so that they can sort of get tested in, am I disciplined enough? Do I have enough motivation to keep going? Some of them might, lose their way for a month or 2, maybe 3, then they come back on track. But look, college has absolutely, for me, been pivotal in the success of these players. Alexa Noel, who's just the NCAA rankings just came out, so she's number 3 in the NCAA. Unbelievable star. Without college, when Corona hit, a lot of those players would have really had some issues. So
is Peyton Stern out of college and trained by a mutual great lady friend of ours?
Emma Doyle, exactly. They spent a lot of time with Peyton, and look at her results. I mean, off the charts. And there's a few other girls that are coming through really solid. So that, again, when we sort of get to the intangibles, we're not talking about the number of forehands and backhands and blah, blah, blah. The intangibles are the support network, the peers. There are multiple people who are in the same position that are seeking this opportunity. And having that around you when you're in a college environment, it really helps. And a lot of players say, when I was at college, I didn't realize I was going to get this far. I didn't think I was going to be this good. And they realize that they're playing for something bigger. They're playing for a team. They're playing for a cause outside of themselves. Now, just compare that for a moment to a kid who's obviously very good and only has mum and dad and their coach, and they're grinding it around the world, and they're grinding it on the ITF tour, and they're going all over the place where there's a whole lot of losing going on. And when there's a whole lot of losing going on, there's a whole lot of people who are investing their time and their lives and money into the story, it's a lot harder to kind of see the positives in the losses versus a college environment. You might lose your match, but the team got home, or you might have, played some in a higher UTR that you shouldn't beat. You did, and you still receive those intangibles of confidence. I think the coaches at college are just, I can't say enough about college coaches. They really bring the human pillars and the values of the kids to the team. And so, you mentioned a moment ago, I'm very involved in that process at college where coaches will call all the time. They're not asking us how's the kid's technique on his forehand. Honestly, they imagine that that's mostly in place. The questions I want to know is what type of team person are they? How gritty are they? How do they handle adversity? They get injured. Are they still going to come to practice? Are they going to be there to support their teammates? Are they prepared to play down and possibly lose to get the team home?
Wow.
They are the things that the coaches want. And, I'm very proud to say that, again, at center court, we've been able to produce so many players at top levels. We've got 3-4 kids next year at Columbia, UCLA. We've got Stanford players. We've got Texas. The schools list go on and on and on. And it's always the same type of kids that they're after. No one really wants that lone star, superstar that's not going to, be part of the team and do the team things, which unfortunately junior tennis on the ITF tour and even at national level, it's not supportive of those ideas. So I believe college tennis is absolutely the way, Mark.
Okay. So 3 things then, how our parents, all right, but before we do that, a USPTA study, I think of at least 5 years ago now, said it cost the American parent $250,000 from the age of 6 to the age of 16 to coach one child to be the best tennis player. Now that's ridiculous. So how can our parents with aspiring children, not just wanting them to be the best tennis player, but the best person, how can they quicken that process and get more bang for the buck, learning from what you do with your Grand Slam juniors?
Look, you've just hit the nail on the head. So, look, everything external to the family is going to cost money, okay? Whether it's court time, coaching time, recovery time, physical training, the list is huge of everything that the player needs. But what you can do at home is help to fast track that process by creating kids that value being a student and value learning and value, relationships and can harness and foster, positive two-way dialogue with experts. That halves the number of time that you really need those questions.
How do you train somebody to be curious if they're not naturally curious? And the other things you just mentioned, all those are skills, man, that need to be trained.
Honestly, Mark, I believe it's discipline in the household. If I look at all of those kids that, I've been fortunate to have through the programs and work with, they're very disciplined household kids. So most of the ones that do extremely well, the kids are very good students academically. And so their balance of time between scholastic development and athletic development, it's very even because they give the value, the parents are giving the value to the importance of education versus go back 20 years ago or 25 years ago, the question at 16, which most kids had completely wrong, including myself as a junior, was, do I go pro or do I go to college? It's not even a question. You got to go to college. And the pro thing handles itself if it's going to happen. A lot of the time, the players that are pushing that, it's coming from parents who are not educated enough on the landscape and the key landmarks along the landscape to know where should my kid be to really be able to be a pro. An example, just last week, we had one of the girls I've worked with for many, many years. We worked really hard to get her into college. And, she'd come from a full homeschool since 10 years old type of environment, traveling, competing, a whole lot of losing, not a lot of personal confidence development. Went into a college environment. In 1 year, we saw more growth than we saw in the last 5 years as a tennis player. But that growth was off court. And that growth off court translated directly to improvement on the court. Now, the parents decided, because they were a little bit from the old school, that college is a waste of time. So they pulled her out.
No.
And so now, here she is, this young girl, 19 years old, not all the skills needed in life, looking at this landscape of playing 30 tournaments a year, and honestly, not with the ability to go that deep that often. There's a whole lot of strength that's required in belief of herself to get through those losses and those difficult moments, traveling to the farthest stretches of the earth to compete and make draws.
Yeah.
And then losing, it's a real difficult situation for players.
Yeah.
College, again, provides the opportunity not to have to do that.
I can hear your big heart and big love coming out, Conrad. You're making me an emotional interviewer.
Well, look, Mark, you spend a lot of time with these kids, right? So in the end, they do somehow feel like they're part of your family. But again, I'm not sure you can really say family, because you really push them and test them beyond what you would your own kids at times. But I think, the real key is to develop kids that have very high standards and a realistic expectation. That combination is very hard to get, because there's a lot of tennis players, to build up their confidence after a loss, their parents will help justify that. Kids older than you, kids more experienced than you, kids played more than you. So in the own child's mind, they start to rationalize a loss, which a lot of the time they probably could have won or should have won, but it was a character flaw that pulled them away. So at 4-3, you had a chance to serve out, go 5-3, attack on the break, who knows? And maybe in the end, they'll close it at 6-4. But they went away from that moment. That moment came and they backed down. They went safe. They went secure. And so parents have to understand that what they say to kids, it's so important. And again, no one can tell a parent what to say to their own kid. But if you're really looking to develop an athlete, riding the lows and the difficult moments is more important than riding the highs. And so real analysis, what happened? Let's look at the actual, maybe it's data, maybe it's behaviors, maybe it's, facial expressions. There are so many ways you can analyze a win and a loss. Parents need to analyze it the right way. Then you get the other type of parents who are constantly critical of the kid. Doesn't matter what they do. They get a win, they win a tournament, and the kid still doesn't get enough praise.
Wow.
You're trying to find the balance of, we talked a little bit, I think previously, about the different stages of development for players, right? So we're talking about how parents can help their kids. We break it down into what's called discovery between 3 and 6, advancement 7 to 11, performance between 11 and 13, identification of real talent between 13 and 15, high performance tennis is 15 to 17, and then elite tennis 17 plus. Transition happens at the same time as a lot of these players are coming out of puberty and into young adulthood. So they're really struggling with their own identity.
Sure.
If we can't, as parents, recognize, and as coaches, the different age stage and how we should be trying to bring the best out of that player, we're doomed for failure.
Yeah. How do people join you? Do you have a wait list? Are you full? I know.
That's funny.
Unless you're Mexican and just arrive at your doorstep with your bag packed.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We do have a lot of just people showing up. So I guess we're doing the right thing. And, we're trying really hard to keep quality ahead of everything else. It's easy to get distracted. One of the things we're trying not to do is to get distracted. So focusing on the day-to-day 1%, making sure we create time for the kids. That's another big thing, I think, is, I'm on court 15 to 20 hours a week. So I have time in an office where players are able to come and sit down and have a conversation, have a dialogue of what they might be struggling with. And I'm able to give them some ideas. Why don't we try this and try that?
Do you have any returning juniors coming back who have
other than those that graduated into college, we've had, for a full-time program, 100% return, which is huge. And so this summer we provided a lot of travel opportunities where we sent a coach out to Germany for 4 weeks, France, Canada, and then back here. So we've had a lot of players that are looking to join the program. And, look, again, I think every single parent should be talking about college to their kids. And what are the things that you need to do to get to college? And yeah, that's the other reality, Mark. There's so many mistruths out there. Like, so many parents have bad information from agents who are charging them a fee per minute and often are saying what they need to hear rather than the truth, right? The reality is any kid that's over a 6 UTR, you're going to find a college. There's 2,000 or 1,300 colleges in the US or something like that. So there's no need to panic. You're going to find a college. And there's this idea that they've got to play D1. They've got to play D1. They don't have to play D1. The reason it's called D1 is because it's a bigger school with more sports. D3 schools are smaller with higher academics. So plenty of examples of players that go to D3 schools, do real well, and then maybe transfer in their last year. So, yeah, I think that's also another reality is getting good information as a parent. And I'm happy to help anyone that needs it. Help your child to develop those values, those tools, relationships. Please don't be one of those people that, little Johnny next door, he's improved so much, I'm going where Johnny is. And following kids around is the worst thing for a player. You rock their world. They need stability. They need to have this ongoing, continuous message. And as I just mentioned, when you look at those different stages that kids go through in their whole performance matrix, a consistent coach is really important because that relationship's been built. You understand the kid. You understand the family. Keep flopping over to, programs to chase other players. You're constantly getting the wow, razzle dazzle from coaches and not the real message.
Is it true in America, as it is in the UK, no doubt, that homegrown talent with a homegrown coach, when you get to a certain stage, gets pulled out of that environment and sent to a national campus? Does that happen in America?
It does happen. It happens in Australia. It happens everywhere. That's the reality of tennis. That once a kid gets good, the National Association wants to be part of that.
But many people, like Murray's, for instance, go to Spain, and other people, when they don't go into the national system, often produce great results.
So you just took the words out of my mouth. Look at Rune, Alcaraz, Sheldon, Coco, Williams's, Murray's. The parents are their pillars. The coaching environment might change, but the pillars don't change. So you may go to Spain, you may go to Australia, you may go to France, you may go Argentina, you may come to America. The parents are the constant. It's a lot of the time the kids that are really talented with parents that do not have a tennis background and do not know necessarily the right from the wrong.
Yeah.
The kids get lost. So
the other kids you just described then get love and they get challenged, whereas the other people just get challenged.
Correct. And I think some of those parents, and I know some of these parents really well, the way they deliver messages are just so humble. Like it's coming from a place of growth, not from a place of criticism or a place of over embellishing a result. It's crazy, Mark. I just spent a couple of weeks ago down at Little Mo up here in the Northeast. And I mean, some of the parenting I saw was just off the charts, mind-blowingly nuts, if I can say that. Yeah. I'm also a parent. So, when I go to those environments, I'm not wearing a coach's hat. I'm 100% wearing a parent's hat. Obviously away from the environment, we're setting our kids up well to perform well. When we go to the tournament, they're doing it. And there's no criticism whatsoever, win, lose, or draw. I don't need the kids my own kids to walk off court and be scared of what they're going to hear. Yeah. That's going to put them in that juice situation of choking. Yeah. I'm creating the choking. I'm off the court and the kid's not doing that. Yeah. So again, parents, there's so much to learn. One of the things I would say for parents is if your kid came home with a 55% in, let's say, English for school, that's not a good mark. They're probably going to get grounded. But in tennis, 55% means you're guaranteed to win the match.
Yeah.
55 is an A+.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of parents don't get that because some of them didn't play the sport. Some of them, don't really understand the numbers side of it. And so I would argue that if you really want to help your kids, spend some time in training, do some courses that can help you either understand the statistical side or the psychological side or the actual creating of a proper training environment side. One of the big issues, Mark, in America, you mentioned earlier about the money, the price of developing a player.
Yeah.
I believe one of the biggest problems in America is kids do not undertake unstructured practice. There's always a coach. It's always a private lesson or a training group. That you can have that if you have an unstructured training aspect to your weekly coaching schedule. Most kids don't. If I go right now and I send out an email and I say, guys, I need your schedule for the week, they're going to send me, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours a week. None of it without a coach. Now, how much do kids learn on their own?
Wow. And it's all there. I mean, you guys would have training videos, tactics, mental development, emotional. They could.
The longest bridge in tennis, Mark. You know, how often do we hear, my kid's training so well, he's beating Jimmy at practice, he's on fire. Then he goes out to a tournament and he can't perform. Well, because he hasn't crossed the bridge from training, learning, teaching, listening, understanding environment to competitive, which is totally open continuum. Everything's random. Nothing is planned. It's that bridge in between. Where they're not got unstructured training time, no one's going to perform well in a competitive environment.
Right.
And we stress that. We stress that.
Yeah.
We include match play in the programs. If not, we create opportunities for two players. Hey, listen, Billy's looking to play a match. Tommy, you and Billy get together, go down there on court number 110 and go and play. No one's going to watch you. And later on, let me know how it went. You know, it just doesn't happen that often, especially, you know, I spent 15 years in Asia where every hour is so valuable. It's all private coaching. That's why it took so long for players to come out of there.
Have we covered the 3 things you were going to talk about, or have we talked about everything else that's valuable?
Well, we've gone left and right, but look, at the same time, I think I'm all about hitting the targets of what anyone wants to hear. And so, you know, I think the whole concept of training yourself to be a winner and helping a child become a winner, we've covered that. I think the whole concept of being consistent with coaching, with the message, whether you're a parent, pre or post performance, that's really important. I mentioned earlier high standards and realistic expectations. Parents need to buy into that. And I think we covered also the importance of the child and player and parent, understanding the off-court side, which is, you know, the statistics, the data. What is a real match player trying to do? Yeah, happy to help with anything I can additional to that, Mark.
Extraordinary. How are your kids getting on?
Really well, really well. It's a long, slow grind, but you know, we get one amazing weekend, which was last weekend, and then we'll get a couple of weekends that, you know, bring us back next week. So it's you know, I always say the pathway, it's not start, nice, good, great, awesome, outstanding, unbelievable. It's, you know, it's just that the whole way. And if I look at, again, Michael Jang, his dad, Joe, one of the most humble, awesome guys you've ever met, 100% supportive, always next to Michael. You know, look at Samir's parents, all about the balance of life, and many of the other kids that are coming through. I just think, you know, if we can look at things with a real perspective, perfectionism is the enemy of any tennis player. So just be mindful of the words you're using with kids. Like, that was perfect. Then, you know, that becomes the benchmark performance. There's always something to improve. I think that the key is always, Mark, at the end of every match, parents, if you're listening in, or kids, if you're analyzing yourself, and I encourage you to keep a journal. First, please write down what you did really well, something you did really well that day. Like, you know, Coach's been talking about my first serve. It was great. Second, what would you have done slightly different? You know, maybe if you could change the tactical side or something slightly different. And third, the next time you play that player or you're in that situation, what will you do differently? And if you start writing these things down, it becomes a natural self-analysis appraisal process.
Phenomenal.
And we encourage that.
Phenomenal. What you said earlier reminded me of the Maria Sharapova quote that said, if the path is always smooth, how do you build character?
Yeah. Couldn't agree more with that. I mean, it's the little moments, the teachable moments that you have to find. And not only the teachable moments from performance in a match. Let's also think about the teachable moments at home, in the environment. You may ask your child to make up their bed and they're not listening to you telling them to make up their bed. That's a teachable moment. Let's work on that, or pick up your trash, or et cetera, et cetera. So the point is, always look for those teachable moments, and make sure that it's not too easy. Everything has to be earned.
Yeah.
Again, the whole, I spend half my life trying to explain to parents why their kid needs to be in this program and not that program. Oh, but my kids have got so special ability. I understand that, but you have to earn it. There's a certain amount of confidence that they'll receive from earning that promotion. Or I could respond to the fact that you're asking me to do it. Yeah. And that's your choice. If you like that, okay, we can make that happen too. We're also an academy, we're in service, we're in business. So sure, we can make that happen, but you're losing a moment of opportunity for your child to grow. So that's really important to keep at the front of the mind.
My last question, because I could speak to you all day, is I presume you have a lot of tennis players that went through your program that didn't make it professionally, but are now, they don't have to be in hedge funds or running businesses, but successful in life, successful in relationships outside of tennis. And I'm hoping some of them would come back and give Conrad a hug.
Listen, I love that you said that. Actually, a few weeks back, one of our alumni, he came in and, hey, Coach, how you doing? I was so happy to see him. Look, he graduated out of the program. He was a top 100 junior, #1 at Yale. Superstar guy working in Manhattan now. Yes, he is in a hedge fund, doing great. But all of those skills, were developed on the tennis court. And so one of the things we often, we don't get asked often, but I always talk about, we're currently talking about the diamonds, the guys that came through and they've done incredibly well. But please understand, before them, there was a crop of kids that didn't get the same results, but they were super hard workers, and they kind of disciplined that younger group. This is the training expectation. This is what we're looking for. They didn't put up with a lot of rubbish on the practice court. If there were practice sets, they were going at it full speed. If they could beat you love and love, they were going to beat you love and love. And so that happened prior to the era of these players that are coming through now and getting these awesome results. So yes, they do come back. We have alumni come back always in the summer. Always reaching out. Coach, I'm in town. Can we come and hit? We're open.
Oh, Conrad, that's your legacy, man. I know the Shangs and #1s are the medal table, but what you just said is your legacy.
We love that. We really do. And, there are the other kids that didn't make it anywhere, and now they're coaching, right? We've got a bucket of those. I mean, if I go through, the last 20 years, I've probably got 15 kids that I coach that are now coaches, which is fantastic as well. So full circle. But I think a lot of that goes back to the most critical point of all is relationships. Absolutely, fundamentally, nothing more important than the relationship, whether it's, with the player, with the parent. That's just the most important thing here.
Conrad, let's sign off on that. And for me to say, I really, really value my relationship with you. Thank you for finding the time and sharing your passion, energy, and knowledge. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Mark. Again, I love doing this. Please, anyone that would like to get out and reach me out, it's conrad@senecorclub.com. Happy to help with anything. Sorry we're a little bit late, Mark. I had to run back from the Open. It's been a crazy week out there.
Somebody else wants you apart from me. I don't understand it.
Thanks, Mark.
Cheers, man. So we're stopped. I just want to thank you. That was fabulous.
No worries, man. It was good fun.
I was hanging on every word. I loved it as ever. Thank you very much.
Anything you need, mate, you let me know. I apologize. I sometimes had to
do you want this for your own purposes? Because it was a phenomenal interview. I thought.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, we'll definitely put it out there, and I'll send it out to all of our players that are registered in our database, which is pretty big here in the Northeast.
Okay, so I'll send you a little email about the Winning US Open and the other phenomenal people that I am blessed that gave their time just to see that Conrad Singh, albeit God, is amongst gods, and your interview is fantastic.
Well, thanks, Mark. You're a legend, mate. Be well, stay strong and healthy, and we'll cross paths very soon.
Yeah, one day at a time.
Thanks, mate.
Ta-da. Have a good one.